In a kingdom where the sun was a stranger and the rain never truly stopped, there was a village called Oakhaven. It was a place carved from jagged stone and heavy hearts. Here the people were measured by the mud on their boots and the exhaustion in their eyes. Most men and women lived by a single sound, the morning horn. When it blew, they marched to the stone quarries. When it blew again at dusk, they collapsed into their beds. They believed that rest was the only escape from a life of labor. They believed that time was a thief that stole their youth and gave them nothing in return. In the corner of this village, in a shack that leaned against the wind, lived the girl named Elara. She was a weaver, but she had no silk. She spun rough gray wool that scratched the skin and held no color. Every night, Elara went to sleep cold. Every morning, she woke up to the same gray sky. She watched the merchants ride by in their velvet carriages, and she wondered, is it magic that made them rich? Is it luck? Or were they born with a sun that I have never seen? She was a ghost in her own life, working odd hours for a few copper coins that barely bought a crust of bread. She felt trapped by the gray. She believed her poverty was a cage built by the stars themselves. But Elara was about to learn that the cage had no lock. It only had a door that opened in the dark. One midnight, when the rain had turned to a soft blue mist, Elara went to the village well. There, she saw a man she had never seen before. He was tall and thin, wearing a cloak that seemed to be made of shifting smoke. A golden blindfold covered his eyes, yet he moved with the grace of a cat. He was dipping a white cloth into a stone vat, and when he pulled it out, the cloth glowed with a shimmering silver light. "Old man," Elara whispered, "how do you find such color in a world of gray?" The dyer didn't turn his head, but he smiled. "The sun is a loud teacher, child. It demands your attention and blinds you to the small wonders. But the moon is a secret keeper. The colors of the day are muddied with the noise of the living, but the thread spun in the silence holds the light of the stars." He reached into his cloak and pulled out a small vial of sparkling silver-blue powder. He placed it in Elara's hand. It felt warm, like a living coal. "Take this," he said. "The sun gives the same daylight to the king and the beggar, but the one who masters the darkness before the sun rises, that person sees the daylight twice. If you wish to weave a new life, you must find the hours that the world has forgotten." Elara returned to her shack, but she did not sleep. The dyer's words echoed in the cold air. The hours the world has forgotten. She looked at her old wooden loom. It looked like a skeleton in the shadows. At 3 a.m. her body screamed for sleep. At 4 a.m. the cold bit into her bones, but she remembered the glow of the silver cloth. She stood up. She didn't wait for the morning horn. While the rest of Oakhaven lay under heavy blankets, Elara walked to the meadow behind her house. The air was silent, a deep, heavy silence that she had never truly heard before. She gathered the dew from the grass, mixed it with the silver powder, and sat at her loom. In that 5 a.m. silence, something happened. Without the noise of the village, without the judgment of her neighbors, her mind became as clear as the mountain air. Her hands, usually stiff from labor, moved like water. She realized that the early morning wasn't a punishment, it was a sanctuary. It was a quiet room where she could finally hear her own thoughts. By the time the village horn blew, Elara hadn't just worked, she had created. On her loom sat a shawl that shimmered like a liquid mirror. When the sun finally broke through the clouds, the golden light hit the shawl and it nearly blinded her. For the first time, Elara didn't feel like a girl watching the world. She felt like a woman shaping it. She took the shawl to the market. The other weavers were just opening their stalls, rubbing sleep from their eyes and complaining about the rain. Elara was already there, her work finished. A merchant's wife traveling from the capital stopped at Elara's stall. She didn't see a poor girl in rags, she saw the silver glow. She bought the shawl for 3 gold coins, more money than Elara's family had seen in a generation. But Elara did not spend the gold on fine food or new dresses. She bought a better loom. She bought finer silk. And most importantly, she bought herself more time. Every night she went to bed with the birds. Every morning at 4 a.m., she was at her loom. The 5 a.m. habit became her religion. Her competitors mocked her at first. Why work in the dark? They laughed. The sun is for working, the night is for resting. But as the months passed, the laughter stopped. While they were reacting to the day, Elara was already ahead of it. By the time they started their work, Elara had already finished her best pieces. She was no longer a ghost, she was the weaver of the moon. Success is a compound effect. Small wins, stacked morning after morning, turned into a fortune. Elara's small shack became a grand workshop. She didn't want to be the only one who saw the daylight twice. She found the girls who were like her, broke, tired, and invisible, and she gave them a loom. She taught them the secret. The first 3 hours of the day belong to you, she told them. The rest of the day belongs to the world. She organized a caravan. Her carts, loaded with silver silk, traveled through mountain passes that the gray villagers were too afraid to cross. She led them to the great capital. When she arrived at the gates at dawn, the guards were stunned. They had never seen such fabric. It looked like it was woven from the sky itself. Elara sold her entire caravan in a single morning. She returned to Oakhaven not as a peasant, but as a legend. She moved her family into a stone house. She built a warehouse to keep the silk dry. But every morning, even when she was the wealthiest person in the region, Elara was awake at 4 a.m. The habit wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the mastery of self. Years passed. The village of Oakhaven changed. It was no longer a place of gray stone and heavy rain. It was a center of art and trade, all because one girl decided to wake up before the world told her to. As an old woman, Elara sat in her garden with her grandson. The boy looked at the grand sundial she had built in the center of the village. "Grandmother," he asked, "is it true that the dyer gave you magic powder?" Elara laughed, her voice like soft silk. "The powder was just crushed glass and minerals, my boy. The magic wasn't in the jar. The magic was in the silence." She pointed to the horizon, where the stars were just beginning to fade into the purple of pre-dawn. "The world is loud, and it is distracting. It will tell you that you are not enough. It will tell you to wait for luck. But in the hours before the sun rises, the world is quiet. It cannot tell you no. In that silence, you can build whatever you can imagine." She handed him a small, sharp needle and a silver thread. "Tomorrow, meet me at the loom before the birds sing. I will show you how to see the daylight twice." The boy showed up. He was shivering, but he was there. And in that moment, the cycle of poverty was broken forever. The story of the weaver became a legend, but it was never a story of magic. It was a story of a choice made every single morning, in the dark
in the quiet before the rest of the world decided to wake up.